You know those moments when you suddenly wake up between 3 and 5 in the morning? For some, it feels like a disruption. For others, it feels like the universe trying to tap them on the shoulder, whispering, hey, pay attention. That window of time is powerful. It's not just some random interruption in your sleep. It can actually be an invitation, an opportunity to check in with your soul, with your thoughts, with your direction in life. Instead of rolling over, groaning, and trying to force yourself back to sleep, use it. Harness it. Let it wake something up inside you, not just wake you out of bed. Because here's the truth. Those early morning hours are sacred. The world is quiet. Distractions are minimal, and your mind, your spirit are at their most open and unguarded. What you choose to do in that time can set the tone for your entire day and sometimes even shift the trajectory of your life. So, if you wake up between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., don't panic. Don't fight it. Step into it with intention. Here's what you can do to turn that disruption into a breakthrough. You know what happens to most people when they wake up in the middle of the night, somewhere between 3 and 5 in the morning? They panic, they groan, they roll over, stare at the ceiling and think, oh no, I can't believe I'm awake right now. I'm going to be so tired tomorrow. And instantly, stress takes over. Instantly, they put themselves in a state of agitation instead of opportunity. And I want to challenge you right here, right now, to flip that script. Because when you wake up in those quiet hours, before the rest of the world is even stirred, you've been handed one of the most sacred invitations of your life, the chance to be still, to breathe, and to connect back with yourself. That stillness is rare in today's world. We're bombarded all day long, phones buzzing, emails stacking up, social media pulling at us, responsibilities shouting our name. But at 3 in the morning, none of that exists. Nobody's calling, nobody's asking, nobody's demanding. It's you, your breath, and your awareness. And if you can learn to embrace that space instead of fight it, you'll discover something extraordinary about yourself. You'll discover that you are capable of calming your mind, mastering your emotions, and reconnecting with the very essence of your power. Think about it. What's the very first thing you do when you wake up in the middle of the night? Do you immediately start replaying yesterday's conversations? Do you start worrying about tomorrow's tasks? Or do you grab your phone, blast your eyes with blue light, and scroll through distractions that only make your nervous system more tense? Most people do one of those things. But what if instead you sat up, placed your feet on the ground, closed your eyes, and just started to breathe? Not shallow, stressed out breaths, but deep, intentional ones. In through the nose, hold out through the mouth, again and again, until your body relaxes, until your shoulders drop, until your heart rate slows down, until your mind starts to realize, oh, we're safe here. We don't need to fight. We don't need to run. We don't need to spiral. We can just be. That is the gift of stillness. That is the gift of breath. And here's what most people forget. Your breath is always with you. It's the one tool you carry everywhere, yet it's the tool you neglect the most. When you wake up between 3 and 5, the very first thing to do is to use that tool, because those long, deep breaths send a signal to your body that it's time to restore, to reset, to return to balance. And when you practice that, when you don't rush to fix the problem of being awake, but instead lean into the moment, you'll notice that your thoughts get clearer, the noise in your head gets quieter. And sometimes inspiration that you could never hear during the chaos of the day whispers its way into your awareness. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say, that's when the idea came to me, or that's when I realized what was bothering me, or that's when I finally felt peace. Not because they forced themselves to think, but because they allowed themselves to stop. Stillness isn't about doing nothing. Stillness is about creating the space for everything you truly need to rise to the surface, and your breath is the anchor that holds you steady while it happens. Now, here's the truth. You'll be tempted to resist it. Your mind will say, this is dumb, I just want to sleep. Your body will beg. Roll over, check the clock, get frustrated. But every time you resist that temptation and choose presence instead, you're rewiring your brain. You're teaching yourself a new pattern. That when life disrupts you, you don't have to react with anger, panic, or frustration. You can respond with calm, with awareness, with intention. That's not just a midnight skill. That's a life skill. That's resilience. That's mastery. So imagine this. You wake up at 3:30. Instead of groaning, you smile. Instead of grabbing your phone, you sit up. Instead of spiraling, you breathe. And in that breath, in that stillness, you discover peace. You discover clarity. You discover that you don't need to be afraid of the quiet. Because the quiet is where your greatest strength is waiting. How different would your life be if that became your default? How much more energy, more confidence, more presence would you bring into your days? And listen, this isn't about being perfect. There will be nights you forget, nights you stumble, nights you give in to frustration. That's okay. Growth isn't about perfection. It's about practice. The more you practice using those early hours as a moment of stillness and breathing, the stronger you get at it. And soon what used to be a problem becomes a powerful ritual. What used to be a disruption becomes a doorway. So the next time life wakes you up in those hours, don't curse it, don't fight it, don't waste it, use it, sit, breathe, because in those quiet minutes, you're not just calming yourself back to sleep. You're training your mind, your body, and your spirit to operate from a place of power, no matter what time of day it is. That is the practice. That is the invitation. That is the transformation waiting for you in the stillness of 3 a.m. Have you ever noticed that when you wake up in the middle of the night, your mind doesn't always go quiet? Instead, it often races. It jumps from one worry to the next, or it fixates on something that doesn't even matter in the daylight. And yet that is the very moment when you are being given a chance to ask yourself the questions that actually matter. Most people, when they wake up between 3 and 5 in the morning, get stuck in meaningless loops, replaying an argument, worrying about bills, stressing about tomorrow's schedule. But what if instead of entertaining those thoughts, you directed your mind with purpose? What if you asked yourself the kinds of questions that break through the noise and bring you back to truth? This is where the power lies. The quality of your life is shaped by the quality of your questions. Wake up at 3 in the morning and ask a lousy question like, why can't I ever sleep? Or why does this always happen to me? And guess what? Your brain will give you a lousy answer that will remind you of every stressful memory, every fear, every insecurity. But wake up at 3 in the morning and ask, what's really on my heart right now? What is trying to get my attention? What is my soul asking me to release? And suddenly, you've turned a problem into a pathway. You've gone from panic to presence. You've shifted from agitation into awareness. Here's why those hours are so important. Your conscious mind is tired. Your defenses are low. The masks you wear during the day, the busy one, the tough one, the distracted one, they're all off. What you're left with is your truest self. And in that raw, unguarded state, the questions you ask yourself have extraordinary power. They don't just float on the surface, they go straight to the core. So if you lean into that moment and ask, what am I avoiding? What am I craving? What am I grateful for right now? You're going to hear answers that maybe you've been too busy or too scared to hear during the day. And let me be clear, this isn't about interrogating yourself. This isn't about forcing answers or digging until it hurts. This is about gently opening the door to your own awareness. Sometimes the answer won't come right away. Sometimes it'll come as a feeling, a nudge, an image. Sometimes it will be quiet, and sometimes it will hit you like lightning. But it will come if you dare to ask. Think about how most people live. They go through their entire day without pausing to reflect. They never stop long enough to ask themselves, am I on the right path? Am I living with intention? Am I showing up as the person I want to be? They stay so caught up in busyness that by the time their head hits the pillow, they're too exhausted to think deeply. That's why those early morning hours can be such a gift. They break the cycle. They wake you up, literally and figuratively, and give you space to reflect when the world is too quiet to interrupt. So the next time you wake up at 3:45 a.m., instead of asking, why me? Ask, what's trying to wake me up inside me? Instead of asking, how will I make it through tomorrow? Ask, what strength do I already have that I'm forgetting? Instead of asking, why can't I sleep? Ask, what do I need to release right now so I can rest? Do you feel the difference in energy? One set of questions drags you deeper into fear. The other pulls you higher into clarity. And listen, Sometimes the answer will be uncomfortable. You might ask, what's been trying to get my attention? And realize it's that relationship you've been avoiding, or that health habit you've been neglecting, or that dream you keep shelving. That discomfort is good. That's growth calling you. That's your higher self saying no more hiding. It's time. Other times the answer will be deeply comforting. You'll ask, what's on my heart? And all you'll hear is, you're okay. You're safe. You're loved. Both matter. Both are breakthroughs. Both are truths you wouldn't have heard if you hadn't paused to ask. This is the kind of practice that doesn't just change your night, it changes your life. Because once you train yourself to ask powerful questions in the quiet of 3 a.m., you start asking better questions in the chaos of the day. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start asking, how can I grow through this? How can I serve through this? How can I live with more intention right now? And when your questions change, your perspective changes. When your perspective changes, your choices change. And when your choices change, everything changes. So if you wake up tonight, don't see it as an interruption. See it as a conversation, not with your phone, not with your worries, but with yourself. Ask the kind of questions that open doors, that unlock clarity, that reconnect you with what matters. Ask questions that remind you of who you really are and what you really want. And then just listen. Let the answers rise. Let them guide you back to peace or propel you forward into action. Because at the end of the day or the middle of the night, it's not about whether you slept perfectly. It's about whether you live with awareness. It's about whether you use those sacred hours to hide from yourself or to connect with yourself. And I believe if you choose to ask the right questions, those hours won't feel like lost time. They'll feel like found wisdom. They'll feel like the universe handed you a flashlight and said, here, look closer. There's something inside you that's ready to be seen. You know what's fascinating? The human brain is a storyteller. It's constantly weaving narratives, building connections, creating meaning from chaos. And in the quiet of the night, between 3 and 5 in the morning, that storyteller is wide awake. But here's the problem. If you don't give it direction, it will spin stories that drain you instead of stories that free you. That's why journaling or capturing your thoughts in some way is so powerful in those early hours. It's not just about writing words on a page. It's about releasing what's been circling in your head, giving form to the intangible, and creating space for clarity. Think about how you feel when you're lying in bed and your mind won't stop racing. You try to silence it. You beg it to calm down, but it only gets louder. The truth is, your mind doesn't want to be silenced. It wants to be expressed. It wants those thoughts out of your head and into the light. And the simplest, most powerful way to do that is with a pen and a page. That's why I tell people, keep a notebook by your bed, not your phone, because your phone is a portal to distraction. A notebook, a sacred space where you can pour the truth of your thoughts without judgment, without performance, without anyone else ever needing to see it. When you wake up at 3:30 a.m. and your brain is rattling off worries about work, write them down. When inspiration strikes and an idea lights you up, write it down. When a memory resurfaces or a feeling presses against your chest, write it down. Don't overthink it. Don't edit it. Don't try to make it perfect. Just get it out. Because when thoughts live only in your mind, they multiply. But when you put them on paper, they lose their power to overwhelm. Suddenly you see them for what they are. Just words, just ideas, just passing clouds. And here's the beauty of it. Sometimes the very act of writing reveals answers you didn't even know were inside you. You start with a sentence like, I can't believe I'm awake again. And a few lines later, you're writing, maybe this is a sign I need to take better care of my health. Maybe this is an opportunity to realign my priorities. Maybe this is the moment I finally admit I'm not happy with where I am, and I'm ready to change. That's the magic of journaling. It takes the swirl of subconscious thoughts and organizes them into patterns you can actually understand. Now, let's address the resistance, because I know what some of you are thinking. I'm not a writer. I don't know what to say. I don't have the time. That's the voice of fear, not truth. Journaling isn't about being a writer. It's about being honest. You don't need eloquence. You need authenticity. You don't need to fill pages. You just need to capture what's present. Even if all you write is one sentence, I feel anxious and I don't know why. That's enough. That's the beginning of awareness. That's the thread you can follow to unravel deeper understanding. And let's be real, at 3 in the morning, it's not like you're missing anything. The world isn't knocking on your door. You have the time. The question is, do you have the courage? Do you have the courage to meet yourself on the page without filters, without excuses, without pretending? Because if you do, you will be amazed at what unfolds. Here's what else happens when you make journaling a practice. You create a map of your inner world. Over time, you start to notice themes. You see the worries that keep repeating. You see the dreams that won't go away. You see the patterns of thought that shape how you feel. And suddenly, you're not just living reactively. You're living reflectively. You're learning from yourself. You're holding a mirror to your own growth. I can't tell you how many breakthroughs are born in the pages of a journal. Businesses have been launched. Relationships have been healed. Personal identities have been redefined. Not because someone set out to write a masterpiece, but because they allowed themselves to be honest in the quiet hours of the night. And listen, there will be nights when journaling doesn't feel profound. You'll write, I'm tired, I wish I could sleep, and that's okay, because the practice isn't about profound, it's about presence. It's about saying, I honor my thoughts enough to give them space. And the more you do that, the more your subconscious trusts you. The more it whispers insights when you're ready to hear them, the more it rewards you with clarity because it knows you'll actually capture it. So tonight, if you wake up again, don't just lie there wrestling with your thoughts. Partner with them. Invite them out of the shadows. Open that notebook, grab that pen, and let it flow. Don't worry about the outcome. Don't worry about whether it makes sense. Just write. And notice how, as the words pour out, your chest feels lighter, your breath deepens, your mind softens. Notice how sometimes the very act of writing is enough to put you right back to sleep, not because you forced yourself, but because you emptied what was weighing you down. That's the gift. That's the secret. When you capture your thoughts, you stop being a prisoner of them. When you put pen to paper, you reclaim your power. And when you practice this in the sacred silence of the night, you'll find that your days start to shift too. You'll walk into the morning with a clearer head, a lighter heart, and a stronger sense of direction. All because you dared to pick up a pen when the rest of the world was asleep. Most people, when they wake up in the middle of the night, treat it as a problem. They label it instantly. I have insomnia. I'm broken. I'll be useless tomorrow. And the moment you label something as a problem, your brain and body respond with tension, frustration, and stress. But what if you relabeled it? What if instead of calling it a problem, you saw it as a reset, a pause button, a moment to breathe, to realign, to begin again? That simple shift in perception, choosing to see your wake up not as punishment but as possibility, can completely change how you experience it. Life is all about the meaning we assign to it. The same event can either devastate us or empower us, depending on the story we tell about it. Waking up at 3:30 a.m. can be either this is ruining me or this is reminding me. It can be either I'm a victim of this disruption or I'm being given a sacred reset. And the second you shift your story, you shift your energy. You go from groaning under the weight of it to rising into the opportunity of it. Think about how powerful that is. Most of us are desperate for moments of reset. We crave time to pause, to reflect, to breathe, to realign, but the busyness of life rarely gives us that. We're racing from one thing to the next, numbing ourselves with distractions and convincing ourselves that we'll find clarity later. Then later never comes. But when you're awake in the early hours of the morning, life has handed you exactly what you keep saying you want. A reset. A moment to step away from the noise and check in with yourself. Now, here's the trick. Your first instinct will be to resist it. You'll want to fight the fact that you're awake, to toss around, to stare at the clock and spiral into worry. That's a habit. That's conditioning. And like any habit, it can be changed. The moment you notice that resistance, interrupt it. Take a breath, smile, literally smile, and say to yourself, this is a reset. By naming it that way, You stop your brain from defaulting to panic. You shift into empowerment. Then what does a reset look like? It doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes a reset is simply lying still and practicing gratitude. Sometimes it's putting your hand on your heart and reminding yourself that you are safe, you are alive, you are blessed. Sometimes it's grabbing your journal, capturing the thoughts you need to release, then putting it aside. Other times it's just taking a few minutes to visualize the kind of energy you want to bring into the morning. The activity doesn't matter as much as the intention. The intention is I'm not being interrupted, I'm being invited, I'm not being punished, I'm being reset. And let's take this beyond the night for a moment. How you handle waking up at 3 a.m. is how you handle life. Do you see disruptions as devastation or as invitation? Do you meet setbacks with resentment or with curiosity? Do you treat obstacles as proof you're failing or as proof you're being prepared? Every time you reframe a wake up as a reset, you are building the muscle to reframe life's challenges the same way. You're training your brain to default, not to panic, but to possibility. Picture two people. Both wake up at 4 a.m. One groans, curses, tosses around, spirals in distress, and finally drifts into restless sleep, filled with anxiety. The other sits up, breathes deeply, whispered gratitude, writes down a few thoughts, and visualizes the day ahead. Which one do you think wakes up at 7 a.m. with more energy, more clarity, more presence? Same wake up, completely different experience, all because of the meaning they assign to it. And here's something powerful to realize. The way you talk to yourself in those moments matters. If you say, this is ruining me, your brain believes it. If you say, this is resetting me, your brain believes that too. Language is programming. The story you tell yourself becomes the reality you live. So choose wisely, choose empowering words, choose empowering frames. You might even make it a ritual. Every time you wake up in those hours, you tell yourself, reset, realign, reconnect. Say it 3 times like a mantra. Let it sink in and watch how that simple phrase changes your physiology. Your shoulders drop, your breath deepens, your mind clears, and suddenly you're not resisting the moment, you're welcoming it. Remember, you don't grow through life by controlling every circumstance. You grow by controlling how you interpret it, how you show up in it, and how you respond. Waking up between 3 and 5 in the morning isn't a curse. It's a reminder that you're alive, a reminder that you have choice, a reminder that even in the stillness of night, you can choose to reset your energy, reset your perspective, reset your connection to what matters. So the next time your eyes snap open and you're tempted to be frustrated, pause, take a breath, smile, say the words, this is my reset, and step into it with intention. Because those moments aren't stealing your rest. They're offering you renewal. They aren't breaking you down. They're building you up. And when you learn to see it that way, you won't dread those wake-ups anymore. You'll welcome them because you'll know that every reset is a gift. Every reset is a chance to realign with your highest self. Every reset is proof that you're being called back to presence. And that right there is the most empowering story you could ever tell. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this. It's the middle of the night, maybe 4:15 a.m., and you're awake. The house is silent. The world is still, and there you are, just you, your breath, and that quiet space. You could choose to toss and turn, stare at the ceiling, or scroll mindlessly. But what if instead you chose to use that time for something extraordinary? What if you decided to visualize the kind of day you want to create? What if in those sacred minutes you rehearsed your future before it even arrived? That's the power of visualization. It's not some mystical concept reserved for dreamers. It's neuroscience. When you visualize, you're literally training your brain. You're creating neural pathways that prepare you to act in alignment with the vision you hold. You're practicing confidence before you need it. You're rehearsing grace before the challenge shows up. You're programming your mind to notice opportunities, to choose strength, to live intentionally, and doing this between 3 and 5 in the morning when the world is quiet and your mind is uncluttered, amplifies the effect. Here's the truth. Most people live their lives by accident. They wake up, stumble into their routines, and react to whatever the day throws at them. They don't set the tone. The tone gets set for them. They don't decide how they'll show up. Circumstances decide for them, and that's why they feel overwhelmed, scattered, unfocused. But you don't have to live that way. You can wake up, whether it's at 7 hours an a.m. with your alarm or 3:30 a.m. with your restless mind, and you can decide, this is the kind of day I'm going to create. So if you wake up in those early hours, here's what I want you to do. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and see it. See yourself moving through your day with intention. See yourself walking into that meeting calm and confident. See yourself speaking with kindness to your loved ones. See yourself tackling your goals with focus and energy. Don't just watch it, feel it. Feel the confidence in your body. Feel the gratitude in your heart. Feel the joy of living on purpose. That's not daydreaming. That's mental conditioning. You're priming your nervous system to live out what you've already rehearsed. And let's be clear, this isn't about pretending challenges won't come. They will. But visualization allows you to rehearse how you'll handle those challenges. Picture it. Someone criticizes you. See yourself responding with grace instead of defensiveness. A problem pops up. See yourself staying calm, breathing, finding a solution. You run out of energy. See yourself choosing rest instead of quitting. That mental rehearsal means when those moments arrive, you're not thrown off. You've already practiced. You've already decided. You've already built the muscle. Now, some people will say, I don't have time for that. I can't sit around visualizing all day. And I smile because the truth is, it only takes a few minutes. 3 minutes of powerful visualization at 4 a.m. can change the energy of your entire day. 3 minutes of deciding who you're going to be when the sun rises is enough to shift how you show up in every conversation, every task, every challenge. It's not about time, it's about intention. And here's what's really exciting. When you practice visualization consistently, you start to notice alignment. Suddenly, the opportunities that match your vision show up more often. Not because the world magically changed, but because your perception did. You trained your brain to look for what you want instead of what you fear. You programmed your focus toward what empowers you instead of what drains you. You primed yourself to act with purpose instead of drifting through autopilot. So tonight, or tomorrow morning, or the next time you wake up in those sacred hours, ask yourself, what kind of day do I want to live? Who do I want to be today? How do I want to show up? Then close your eyes and see it in detail. Don't be vague. Don't just say, I want a good day. Be specific. See yourself finishing that project with pride. See yourself laughing with your family at dinner. See yourself walking with confidence, shoulders back, heart open. The clearer the vision, the stronger the impact. And don't stop at seeing it. Anchor it. After you visualize, whisper it to yourself. Say, this is who I am today. This is how I will show up. Words give life to vision. Words lock in intention. Words become commands your brain takes seriously. So declare it. Own it. Step into it. Because here's the ultimate truth. Every day is going to happen anyway. The question is, will it happen by default or will it happen by design? Waking up between 3 and 5 gives you the gift of design. It hands you a blank canvas before the world paints on it. It's your chance to pick up the brush and choose the colors. And when you do, you stop being a passive character in your own story. You become the author. So the next time your eyes open in the stillness of the night, don't waste the moment. Don't curse it. Don't fight it. Use it. Breathe. Close your eyes and visualize the day you want to live. Because when you do that, you're not just preparing for tomorrow, you're creating a future you'll be proud of. You're aligning with intention. You're rehearsing greatness. And that's how you transform a restless wake-up into a powerful reset. That's how you take control of your mornings, your days, and ultimately your life. There's something powerful about how you choose to end the night, even after you've been awake in those sacred hours. Most people, once they've tossed and turned, maybe written a few things down, maybe tried to breathe, will eventually drift back to sleep. But here's the question, what energy are you carrying back with you? Because that energy matters. The way you fall asleep is often the way you wake up. The mindset you take with you into those last hours of rest is the mindset that greets you when the morning comes. And that's why I believe it's so important to align with purpose before you drift back to sleep again. Think about it. Most people, when they finally get tired enough, collapse back into bed with a heart full of frustration. They're muttering, ugh, I hate this. I'm going to be so exhausted tomorrow. Why does this always happen to me? And those thoughts, those words become the final program running in their subconscious before the morning alarm rings. Is it any wonder they wake up tired, irritable, and unfocused? They carried negativity into sleep, and they reaped negativity when they woke. But what if you flipped that? What if instead of drifting back into sleep with frustration, you drifted back in with intention? What if you carried gratitude, clarity, and purpose into your subconscious and let those seeds grow while you rested? Here's what that looks like in practice. After you've breathed, after you've asked your questions, after you've maybe journaled or visualized your day, you simply pause before lying back down. You place your hand on your heart. You close your eyes and you remind yourself of who you are and what matters. You whisper something like, I am strong. I am guided. I am grateful. Tomorrow I rise with purpose. You don't have to recite some long ritual or memorize a complicated mantra. Just a few intentional sentences. Just a reminder to your soul. That's enough to shift the energy you carry back into your sleep. And don't underestimate this. Because your subconscious is always listening. It doesn't turn off when you close your eyes. It takes whatever you feed it last and it marinates in it all night long. Feed it stress and you wake up stressed. Feed it gratitude and you wake up grateful. Feed it fear and you wake up afraid. Feed it purpose and you wake up aligned. That's why those final thoughts matter so much. They are the bridge between night and morning, between rest and rising, between who you were yesterday and who you're becoming today. Now, you might be thinking, but what if I don't believe the words I'm saying in that moment? What if I don't feel strong or guided or grateful? That's okay. You don't have to feel it perfectly. You just have to plant the seed. The very act of choosing empowering words, even if you don't fully feel them yet, begins to shift your state. And the more you practice, the more your brain starts to believe them. Consistency creates conviction. Let's make this practical. The next time you're awake at 4 a.m. and you're ready to go back to sleep, I want you to follow this simple process. Pause, breathe, hand on heart, and affirm. Something as simple as, I release the day. I welcome rest. I rise with clarity. Or, I am safe. I am grateful. Tomorrow, I bring my best. Choose whatever resonates with you. But say it with intention. Don't just mumble the words. Feel them. Let them sink in. Let them be the last vibration your mind carries into sleep. And here's what you'll notice. When you wake up later, even if you didn't sleep perfectly, you'll feel different. You'll feel lighter. You'll feel more grounded. You'll feel like you started your morning already aligned, already anchored, already connected to something deeper. That's not luck. That's not chance. That's the result of going back to sleep with purpose. This isn't just about one night. This is about a practice that reshapes how you live. Because if you can learn to align with purpose in the middle of the night, you can learn to align with purpose in the middle of your day. You can learn to pause before the meeting, before the conversation, before the decision, and remind yourself of who you are and how you want to show up. That's mastery. That's self-leadership. That's how ordinary people create extraordinary lives. They align with purpose, not just once in a while, but again and again and again. And listen, I get it. Some nights will feel messy. Some nights you'll forget. Some nights you'll fall back into old habits of frustration. That's okay. This isn't about perfection. It's about practice. Every time you choose to align before you sleep again, you strengthen the muscle. Every time you whisper gratitude instead of groaning in frustration, you rewire your brain. Every time you affirm purpose instead of panic, you step closer to the person you were meant to be. So here's the challenge. Don't let your nights end in negativity. Don't carry frustration into the morning. Take back those last few minutes before sleep and turn them into a sacred ritual. Align with who you are. Align with what matters. Align with purpose. And watch how not only your mornings transform, but your entire life begins to shift. Because when you learn to fall asleep with intention, you wake up with power. When you learn to carry purpose into rest, you carry purpose into action. And when you practice this again and again, those midnight wake-ups will no longer feel like disruptions. They'll feel like invitations, reminders that even in the silence of the night, you are the one who gets to choose your energy, your mindset, your purpose, and that choice will always shape your life.